Welcome to another edition of Winter Lemaster. I am your host. Today we are going to be talking about the 3 Ps of production. This by no means is a all-encompassing Bible. This is literally just the tips of a few things that I like to keep in mind when going into any type of production scenario. The 3 Ps are kind of my baseline foundation, kind of like a nice general summary of things to keep in mind as a producer on every production that you go into. With that said, let's jump into it. The 3 Ps of production are as follows. It's preparation, right? It is patience and persistence. Not necessarily in that order, but those are the basic 3 Ps. Patience is a key quality to have as a producer. And I started production in Hawaii. And as anybody who's been in the business knows, Hawaii is its own unique beast. In Hawaii, things are a little bit scaled back. There isn't this sense of urgency that you get like in LA or New York or in some other places. And the reason is because most people in Hawaii in the industry are already a pretty close-knit community. Everybody kind of works with everybody kind of knows everybody, and they don't just work and know people within the industry, they know them from outside. They went to school with them, they surf with them, they fish with them, they hang out on Sundays at different barbecues together. There's a tighter knit community, a closer bit of camaraderie. And as a result, the idea of patience is very prevalent because the Hawaii production community has a very high level of trust that, look, I sent you an email on Monday, my job is on Thursday, you haven't gotten back to me till Tuesday afternoon. The people in that little chain of command there, that little chain of communication, have trust that it's going to be handled by the time they need it to be handled. Whereas in LA or New York or Atlanta, it's a little bit different. When somebody calls the prop house at 8 a.m. and they don't hear back from them by 12 p.m., they're freaking out. Like, when am I going to get a response? But in Hawaii, if you call somebody a month before the job and they don't call you for a week and a half, you're not really stressing out too much. You have faith that that person is going to be getting back to you about your job because everybody's really kind of in it together. So that idea of patience is really key. The other thing about patience that's really key is you got to understand that your job is important to you, but your job isn't important to anybody else. Everybody has their own challenges and hurdles that they're facing in their department, in their timeline, on their line item, in their invoice, in their estimate, in their production book. So your issue isn't necessarily anybody else's issue, and you have to understand that. You have to approach it with a little bit of decorum, and you have to approach it with a little bit of savvy patience. The other great thing about being patient and remembering to be patient is how it actually helps you communicate with other people in the industry. When you're patient and you're calm and you're rational and you can look at things from multiple sides of the situation, it really helps the people you're working with feel at ease also. They don't feel like you're tasking them with some thankless burden. They actually appreciate and learn to appreciate and have gratitude towards each other. So that's also why patience is really, really important in production. You want everybody that you're working with to feel good about what they're doing. And part of doing that is being patient with them. The other one on this list is persistence. Persistence is key to patience. You are clear in your communication, and you are diligent and polite, and you are very concise. People will respect that. If you are haphazard and kind of nonchalant and just kind of throw things to the wind and don't really like give proper respect where it's due, if you're not persistent and meticulous in your communication, people are not going to take you seriously, and that can be a problem. For example, I had a client years and years ago, and this client was not persistent at all. They didn't respond to requests, to questions. When they did, they weren't persistent in their response, meaning they weren't detail-oriented. They never followed up. When I spent time to itemize a production email at the end of the day, asking them a bunch of important questions about locations and budget, their lack of persistence, their lack of wanting to push into quality communication and clear communication, their lack of persistence showing interest in the job at hand that was coming up, told me that they didn't respect me and what I was doing. They didn't respect the photographer because this was the photographer's agent. They didn't respect anybody that was involved in this production. They basically, by their lack of persistence, were showing people that this wasn't important enough for them to take the 10 or 15 minutes it was needed to respond in an email. And that is a lack of persistence. In that lack, it made everybody that was involved in this project who could see this correspondence between myself and the other producer and the client, it made them feel not good. It made them feel like, why am I putting 110% into this if this person is not even valuing our time at all? It's like they're disregarding us. It's a complete disrespect. The other thing about persistence is it is part of the detail process in which you need to be able to communicate effectively. You need to be persistent in terms of letting people know what it is you need when you need it, and you need to be persistent in order to get the proper response. If you're not persistent in communicating outward, there's going to be no persistence in communicating inwards, and that can lead to a lot of gaping cracks which things are going to fall into. That's the key as far as persistence goes. If you are persistent and patient, it shows the people that you are working with that you care about your project, that you're involved in your project, that you have gratitude for your project, and that you are appreciative for the project. And when you have all of those factors kind of coming together, it's going to make your project in the pre-pro section really take off nicely, which is a pretty major part of the production process. The next part of this 3 Ps is preparation. This one out of the 3 I feel is the most critical, because if you don't have any preparation, patience and persistence don't matter. Within preparation, there are 3 categories, right? So you need to be prepared in your pre-production, you need to be prepared in your production itself when you're actually on the ground running, and you need to be prepared in your post-production. That means the wrapping process. What is an example in pre-production of preparation? Well, in pre-production, preparation basically means that you kind of need to foresee some of the hurdles that you're going to come into with regard to what it is that you are trying to accomplish. There can be a bunch of hurdles, like you were hoping for a $155,000 budget, but you got an $85,000 budget approved. So how does your vision of what you were intending to provide, how are you now prepared to shift and change to still execute something that your client is going to be stoked on, but with a limited budget? The other thing about preparation and pre-production is you kind of have to know a little bit about what is coming your way. That can mean even before the client has signed on and approved the estimate, you should know about them. You should know who it is that's reaching out to you. What are they all about? What do their other shoots look like? What is their style? Who's on their team? Where have they shot before? Why are they coming to you? What is it that they're hoping to get from working with you? How can you help them reach their goal? What exactly is their goal? And a lot of this is revealed in a production email, through the first few phone calls or Zoom meetings or whatever. But a lot of it has to do with your level of research into who they are and what they're all about, what they like, what they don't like. If there's some connection to be made, have they worked with a friend of mine? Are they a referral? Have I worked with the photographer before? Is it an ad agency that I've worked with before? There's a lot of different factors that should go into preparation in the pre-pro. Another aspect of pre-production preparation is being able to understand and foresee hurdles. Now, this comes a lot with experience, but you should be familiar with anything and everything to do with the production process. If they're asking you, oh, well, what kind of costs are we looking at for permits for this area? Well, if that area is a no-shoot zone, you better know off the bat before you tell them, oh, well, permits are usually $800 and this is no problem. They're going to ask you about hotels, they're going to ask you about food, they're going to ask you about nightlife, they're going to ask you about transportation, they're going to ask you about so many things before they can even put a handshake in to finalize the deal. I made the mistake one time of recommending the Ace Hotel in Santa Monica to a client who was absolutely not about that boutique lifestyle. They wanted the Lowe's, right? But I didn't do enough like pre-production, like research, and I wasn't prepared. So when they said, hey, what hotel do you recommend? I instantly went, oh yeah, you guys should stay at the Ace. Was it the Ace? Or was it the Vaughn something? It's not important. Oh, the Viceroy. What's the Viceroy? Anyway, not important. But basically, I said, oh, this is our favorite hotel, blah, 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 blah. And when they looked it up and they saw it, they realized, shit, dude, like that hotel's a cute little boutique hotel, but we need like to be pampered. We want to be like eating at a James Beard restaurant at night. And my my suggestion was totally off base for what they needed. We could really talk about the three P's of production for hours and hours, but that's a general synopsis of what I like to call the three P's of production: preparation, right? Patience, and persistence. That about sums it up for today's topic. I hope I kept it short and concise and clear. I hope you were able to take some of that information and apply it to something that you're working on so it's more successful. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Winter Lemaster. Let's give Nate from Spirit Adrift a big thank you for allowing me to use his song for our intro and outro. If you haven't, take a look at my intro where I talk a little bit about what this channel and this series this season is all about. Till we meet again, I will see you next week on Winter Lemaster. Have a good one.